Well, hello again and welcome to another edition of Shed Talk, the weekly magazine video series looking at all things keeping, breeding and showing of Exhibition Budgerigars. Well, as promised, in this video we're going to look at pairing up a few of the first birds. Thanks for those of you that fed back on some of the other videos around my assessment of both the cockbirds and the hens. I enjoyed reading all of those comments and I will take them on board, or some of them on board, going forward, but I still think I'm going to stick pretty much with my original plan when it comes to pairing up 10 pairs, and perhaps I'll talk a bit about that in a little while. As always though, if you do enjoy these videos, don't forget to hit the like button, and of course please do comment. And if you haven't already subscribed, then do subscribe. And finally, feel free to share any of these videos on any other of the either Facebook groups or elsewhere. So let's think about what we're going to do when it comes to pairing up those first pairs. So when it comes to pairing up the birds, there are a couple of tools that I will use prior to pulling the birds out of the cage and doing a direct comparison. The first of those is the bird assessment spreadsheet that I used when I was assessing both the cockbirds and the hens, because contained within there is some information about all of the birds. So in particularly when you think about it, it's got the some of their better points and of course some of their lesser qualities on the birds. So if I'm looking to improve a particular bird, then I would obviously need to look at a bird that possesses the qualities that that bird doesn't have, but also that I'm not doubling up on any particular fault, so whether that be the slight hinged tail or flecking and so on and so forth. So that type of thing, and most of that information is contained in the assessment tool that I used when I assessed all of the cocks and the hens. So that's one of the first tools that I will look at. So I'll put one of the hens out that I'm thinking about pairing, and then have a look at the assessment tool to see whether find a number of cockbirds, if we're looking at the hen, a number of cockbirds that might be compatible with it. The other tool that I will look at is my breeding records. Now, some of you will probably know, those that have been watching the channel for a little while will know that I have an electronic breeding record. I did do a video on that must be over a year ago now, I think, when I did the video on the online breeding tool that I used. I will post a link to that across the top of the screen, but that will give me some additional information. So in terms of the background of the birds that I'm looking at. So if I'm pairing up, particularly if it's not an outcross that I'm pairing up, but just one of my own birds, I'll look at it and then see, firstly, make sure it's not too closely related, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a future video. But secondly, that there is some connection between the two birds where possible, whether that be great grandfather or uncle or niece, that type of thing. So those are the two tools that I'm going to use, but it might be easier if I show you that by way of an example when we think about pairing up one of the first few pairs. So having done the paper sift, so to speak, you know, I've looked at the birds on paper, I've looked at what I want to improve with each of the birds and tried to compare them up with compatibility based on their scores and their, I suppose, what they look like on paper. And as I said previously, what I would then do is just make sure whether they're compatible in terms of their relationship with each other. And I will talk a bit more about that in a video that's coming up when I start to pair up birds that are just solely my own. The birds that I'm looking at in this video are all of the outcross into one of my birds, so there's no problem with them being compatible in terms of their relationship. So having done that, the next thing I will do is to pop them out, put them into a show cage, and have a visual appreciation of them again. So what I'm really looking for when I'm doing this is to make sure, first of all, there's no obvious reason why I shouldn't be putting them together. So I look to see, are they both carrying obvious faults? So, you know, are they both carrying flecking? Are they both carrying poor wing carriage? Are they both carrying opalescence around the neck? That sort of thing. And if they are, then I'll quite clearly, I don't want to double up on any faults. So I would then split them and find the hen, in this case, a new partner. If there aren't any obvious reasons why I can't put them together, I then like to look at them and just make sure that they are adding something to each other. And I'll talk through or look at the first 4 pairs that I'm going to put down, which are all of the outcrosses, so all of the birds that aren't mine, although they're being crossed into my birds. So we'll look at those 4 now, and we'll talk just very briefly about what I see and what I'm trying to achieve. Whether that works out, you know, who knows? Well, only time will tell, and only the chicks will tell. So this is the first pair that I plan to put together, and the outcross is the opaline cobalt on the left as we look at them. This bird is one of the birds I picked up really quite cheaply at the Oxford 1910, one of the Oxford 1910 shows, and it was sold as a pair. So that's the hen that I'm going to put in, and it's obviously a lesser hen in terms of overall, but it comes from a good pedigree background, so I'm hoping that will come out. And the cockbird is one of my birds, this light green cock, and this is one of the birds that was feather plucked, so please ignore the scruffiness. Is actually not too bad a bird overall from my shed point of view, and I do keep saying that because you can only breed with what you've got. So first of all, are there any obvious doubling up on faults? I can't see anything obvious. Neither of the birds are flecked. The big fault for the hen is the way she carries herself, leaning across the perch. That's, I suspect, would be her biggest fault. She does have some opalescence around the back of the neck, but then again it's an opaline, so come to expect that. The cockbird doesn't have any of those faults. Stands reasonably upright on the perch. So in terms of what they will add to each other, in my point of view, so I think the hen's going to add spots to this bird, to the cockbird, and also some width and size. When you hold this hen, she feels like a really big, thick set bird, and given that it's not overly feathered, so this isn't just feather, this is the actual bird, I would say. So I'm hoping she will bring some bulk to this cockbird, and I'm hoping the cockbird will improve a little bit on the hen's, well, obviously on the way she sits, so I'm hoping the offspring will inherit his stance, the way he's sitting, but also I'm hoping that the offspring will inherit a bit more of his face and blow, but she definitely will add in terms of spots and probably in terms of depth of marks. So that's the first 2 birds that we'll look at. We'll now look at the other 3 outcrossings. So this is the next 2 that we're going to look at. The hen on the left is the cinnamon sky blue that we had in the breeding cage last year, but unfortunately didn't produce anything, so I'm going to give her one more go. And the cock that I've picked for her is this light green, another bird that was feather plucked as a youngster. In terms of the idea around are we doubling up on faults, I don't think so here. Again, the main fault of this hen, I think, is it does lean across the perch a little bit. Doesn't quite have the upright stance that I would like. She is, however, quite a nice wide bird, a bit like the last bird that we looked at. And the light green cockbird has a nice upright position, and so quite a nice long bird. He's standing a little bit tall at the moment, which isn't a bad thing perhaps, and has some nice feathering across the eyes, so I'm hoping he will add that to this young hen. But as I say, this hen hasn't bred anything for me. She goes in the nest box, cleared it, and then didn't produce anything, so I'm sort of hoping this is a new cock, new season and all that, so I'm going to give her one more go. So that's the second pair that's going to go down, and that's the two outcross hens looked at. We'll now look at the outcross cockbirds that we're going to pair up next. So this here is the next pair, and we've got the outcross opaline grey on the left hand side, which is a cockbird. This is again a bird that I picked up at Oxford 1910. Very reasonably, very well priced, and the hen is one of my birds, and it's this year's bred, sorry, 2022 bred, but very early 2022, so is old enough to go into the breeding cage. Both of these birds, so in terms of am I doubling up on faults, I don't think I am on either of these two birds. The young hen's got a little tiny bit of flecking. I don't know if you can see it, a little tiny bit on the top of the head, but it's very minor. And the cockbird for an opaline is very clean. Both have got reasonably nice style about them from my point of view. If anything, the cockbird probably has a little bit of a poor wing carriage that you can probably see. I'm hoping that the length of the cockbird will be transferred to the young, and the extra width that this hen has, given that she's still quite a young bird and still got a bit of growing to do, will pass on to the youngsters. And I think they do sort of complement each other across the head, so the hen's got quite a bit of extra width between the eyes than the cockbird. Cockbird's got quite a bit over the top, so yeah, there we go. This is the pair 2, or sorry, pair 3, and the first of the cockbird outcrosses that I'm going to pair up. And the final pair we're going to look at in this video, and I notice they're not sitting particularly well. I've tried to get one of them to move, but the hen just follows the cockbird to the other perch, although she has moved across now, so hopefully you can get a view of them. So this cockbird is the bred last year, outcross, does have a tiny little bit of flecking, but only produced one offspring with flecking, so I'm hoping that that's a good sign. He has a nice strong face, but lacks a tail, and the hen, if I can get him to cross over and see whether we can get a little bit of a view of the hen. The hen is a this year bred bird, so early, I say this year, so a 2022 rung bird, but once again another early bred bird, so should be okay in the breeding cage. She's off one of a line, one of my better lines, so and came up quite high, I think, in my rundown. I'm hoping that he we'll add a bit more across the top of the head for that hen, and the hen will improve the feather quality in terms of the flights and tail feathers on the cockbird that we know is never has a full set of flights and never has a full tail. I'll say though that when I bred with this cockbird last year, none of the offspring are tailless, so I'm hoping by bringing another hen in for him that's complete in feather, we'll add a young bird. I say this hen, quite a nice long bird, nice straight back, so I'm hoping this pair will do all right for me, and I'll get a few more out of it that won't be flecked. So that's the final pair we're going to look at. Just so you know, I did double check that this hen isn't related at all to any of the offspring of this cockbird. So had a look at that, and they seem okay in terms of background. But as I say, in terms of that relationship, blood relationship percentage, I will talk quite a lot about that or a bit more about that in a future video when we're pairing up some pairs of my own birds. So that's the final pair we're going to look at. I say this cockbird did produce some quite nice birds for me last year, and I'm hoping with this new hen I'll get some good half brothers and sisters that I can then pair back together. There we go, that's the first 4 pairs that are going to go down then. Well, that is the first 4 pairs paired up, and all I've got to do now is add those to my breeding records, both in terms of my online breeding record and the spreadsheet breeding records that I use. The spreadsheet breeding record, I'm sure you're aware, is available on my Facebook page, so the Shed Talk Facebook page. It's available on there. You can download it for free as usual. It's based on Google Docs, which is also free. So if you don't have Microsoft Office, so if you don't have my Excel, Google Docs is free. It's based on that. If you do have Excel and you prefer to use Excel, you can convert it when you download it to use in Excel, so there isn't a problem, whichever one you are using. So do go across and have a look. If you want to use it, then please do. It does a bit of working out. I think it's self-explanatory, and I did do a video on it, I think sometime last year. Well, so that's, like I say, that's the first 4 pairs paired up. Over the next few weeks I'm going to look at pairing up another or the remainder of my pairs, but until the next video, as always, if you enjoy the videos, do hit the like button, do share, do comment, and of course do subscribe, and last but not by no means least, do stay safe and enjoy your birds.